Hi guys, I'm Kyler, and today I want to talk about Chibi Robo. It's one of my favorite games that I got when I was in 5th grade, and one of my friends from Japan turned me onto it. It's actually a very Japanese kind of game. It takes a lot of elements from Toy Story and anime and other more adult themes like divorce and death and addiction. And it wraps it up into a very awesome adventure that not a lot of people are talking about. Sometimes you'll see videos that talk about the game overall or the sequels, but in this one I want to make sure we address what actually happens in the story. And it's going to be a long one, so buckle up.
Chibi Robo, he's a tiny robot with the purpose of cleaning and making everybody happy. You are introduced in the beginning of the game of the concept of rising through the ranks. Kid number 1, you become Super Chibi Robo. Helping you with this task is Television, who's a self-appointed manager who is also a flying television. This game takes place at the Sanderson's family home, and Chibi Robo was bought by Mr. Sanderson. Mr. Sanderson is recently unemployed and still has a problem spending all the monies that the family fund has on toys, including Chibi Robo, forcing them into more debt, which naturally has created tension between him and his wife, Miss Sanderson, who's a stay-at-home mom who's fed up with the bills piling on up. Originally, you get the impression that Mrs. Sanderson is pretty displeased with her family and honestly kind of a jerk. But the more you get to know her, the more you understand why. Well, you see, her daughter, Jenny, she's a frog, or at least she thinks she is. Despite Miss Sanderson's attempts to normalize her, it's always dismissed, so Jenny can keep living that froggy life. Jenny is the 8-year-old daughter of the Sandersons who doesn't say much else besides ribbit and some key words. Other than that weirdness factor, she's a normal kid, just coping with her parents' bickering and potential divorce. Oh, and they have a dog named Tao also. After Jenny's birthday, it's nighttime at the Sanderson home, and you realize that the other toys are alive, just as alive as you are. And when the family's away, the toys come out to play. Every toy has their own life and ambitions. Interacting with them and progressing through inter-individual stories will earn you happy points, including more on the Sandersons' past. One of the most popular toys is Drake Redcrest, who Mr. Sanderson is obsessed with so much. Drake is self-absorbed upholder of justice who patrols the living room at night. He immediately appoints himself as the mentor for Chibi Robo and is one of the toys that has the most interaction with all the other toys in their stories, yet has no real development or arc of his own. He remains the same narcissistic hero throughout the game. He serves the other toys' stories by fulfilling the role of a delusional server of justice, an antagonist, and an object of affection. Sophie, Tao's chew toy, is the one who's super crushing on Drake. Chibi Robo finds her writing letters in a diary for unrequited love. In the majority of her story, you'll find her dropping love notes to Drake that she, even to the end of the storyline, never directly delivers. Your manager, Telly, is convinced that these letters are addressed to him, written by Miss Sanderson. Towards the end, he realizes how wrong he is. Poor Telly. And Chibi Robo returns one of the letters back to Sophie, who finally decides to deliver to Drake, but literally dies of anxiety before she can. Drake comes through and picks up the love letter, clueless as to who it is from, despite it literally next to Sophie's dead body. Like, really, man? And a moment later, Sophie's spirit re-enters her body and is basically revitalized because her letter was actually delivered. But she's happy to love Drake from afar, content that he is everyone's hero. Well, good job, girl. When you enter the floor, you get shot by a platoon of triggered, hard-boiled egg army men. This forces you to retreat to the kitchen. You will end up finding a cup, which ends up being all you need to neutralize this attack. And when re-entering the foyer, your only option while running under fire is running towards the basement. Down there, you'll find a giant robot laying in the corner offline. After plugging yourself into their socket, you get fried, and while you passed out, you cipher memories. And a slideshow accompanied by one of my favorite sad songs in this game, you find that the Giga Robo was the last robot companion that the Sandersons owned and seemingly loved pretty dearly. And one day, a UFO nearly crashed but was caught by Giga Robo. The aliens thanked Giga with a ball of life, which then he gave to all the toys in the house. While that moment was exciting, unfortunately their electricity bill was obscenely expensive, so they retired him to the basement, which is where you found him. And after awakening, Chibi Robo is confronted by Captain Plankbeard, who introduced himself and explains to you that he needs to find Giga Robo's battery charger and spend 10,000 moolah to get them back to full charge so he can prevent another high bill. Plankbeard then reveals to you that he wants to be a pirate again, but he feels guilty because he thinks that the Sandersons are so poor that they can't even eat, so he quit the pirating life. Telly explains that it's not as bad as Plank thinks, which makes him pull a 180 and be like, well, we gotta get that booty. But he immediately realizes he has no ship, so you're tasked with finding it. Returning upstairs, your wit is rewarded with the Egg Army Men's respect. Shortly after, you start frequently training to fight Tau, who allegedly took one of their men, Memphis. After a quick training session, you enter the kitchen to go down the sink drain and realize the Captain Plankbeard's ship is located in the backyard, where with your spoon, you can dig it up and shove that massive ship in your head and go deliver to the captain. But before you do that, you can find a dehydrated frog and splash some water on it. They regain consciousness and try to talk to you. In that moment, you'll get a froggy suit so you can talk to Frida the frog. She'll let you know that her boyfriend gets lost in the house, which, I mean, I don't know where you gotta live in suburbia to get stray frogs hanging out in your house, but alright, I'll keep my eyes open. When you return to the basement, you realize that Plankbeard is actually gambling with some weirdo called the Great Piku, who's a scam artist. He'll literally ask you what eye he's gonna open, and unless you know his pattern, he'll just make you lose over and over. There's not much to this character other than he ends up in random places all around the house, like in the stove or in a fishbowl, just being weird. So when Plank is done squabbling over his loss to his strange scam artist, you can cheer him up with his ship. Eager to get pirating again, he realizes, dang, I ain't got no shipmates. At this point, you have to recruit some mates. Back upstairs, you find out that a few eggs went AWOL and actually decided that they want to be pirates. So it looks like a good deal to us. One is in the kitchen under the table, another outside on the swing tree branch, another is in the parents' bedroom above a light, and the last one's in Jenny's room in the bookcase, looking at himself in the mirror, dancing like a fool. After meeting with all the AWOL eggs, the plan's crew is finally assembled. They lift off into their ship to go be pirates or something, and leave you with 3 treasure maps. You find out that there are some neat Easter eggs within each, but we'll come back to that at the end. When Chibi checks back in with the army eggs, we complete training for the upcoming battle. You go outside to confront Tau with your team, and Sergeant begins with a pep talk. Before the battle can begin though, Sergeant is struck mid-speech by Tau which commences the fight. Sergeant cries out that he doesn't have enough men. When the missing eggs who decide to be pirates, space cruisers, and hot rod racers, of all things, come through to aid in the fight. Sergeant cries tears of joy, and Chibi is directed to blast Tau's collar, where Memphis falls out. Apparently, he was fine the entire time, and just hanging out with Tau. Everyone rejoices after realizing this, and are just all finding that this was a silly misunderstanding. Sometime after the celebrations, you find a suspicious Mr. Sanderson who's hiding a toy receipt from his wife, and you gotta go and collect it. I literally picked it up right in front of his face, and he was like, hey, please, don't give it to her. And I was like, sure man, no problem. Immediately, I gave to Miss Sanderson, who's stressed about her bills, only to acknowledge, oh wait, oh my god, there's more? The last straw was broken, and Mr. Sanderson can hear it. Miss Sanderson makes it abundantly clear that she is fed up and even threatens divorce. Semi-surprisingly, Mr. Sanderson snaps right back into action and decides to get his act together. From now on, you can find him no longer sleeping on the couch, but occasionally outside of their bedroom. Sometimes Jenny is sitting outside her room looking all traumatized, speaking actual words through sunshine, which is actually pretty creepy. Speaking of creepy, jeez. Okay, so this is Mort, who lives in Jenny's room along with other toys. He's a hopeless romantic who's hopelessly devoted to Princess Pit, who's definitely not Princess Peach, the beautiful princess who lives on the castle across the room. But our guy Mort is terrible low self-esteem. He's like a movie culmination of every horror archetype, from sleeping on a coffin like Dracula, the fashion sense of a mummy, to the physique of Frankenstein. It's clear that Mort is traditionally not so handsome, and he beats himself up over it. And that is when the relentless hero, Drake Redcrest, reappears. After literally dismissing all of Sophie's efforts to display her love for him, Drake spies upon the princess at the top of the castle, and like a true bro, is like, that's the one. And from there on in, he tries to interfere with Mort's mission of love as his rival. Mort winds up telling you that Princess Pitts has lost her red slipper and she refuses to come back until it is retrieved. You, of course, find and deliver that slipper to her, and when she finally comes out of her castle, she finds dead flowers waiting for her. Princess Pitts wonders aloud who has left these flowers for her, and none other than the Drake Redcrest is there to say, it definitely wasn't him, because those flowers are mad stinky, bro. So Princess Pitt's curiosity continues to grow, and just like Mort's dedication to her, since he cooks up the plan to grow a very specific, very special flower for her, a nectar flower. You ultimately end up getting it and planting it for him, only for Mort to pick it up and for it to wither in his touch. Princess Pitt sees all of this, since I guess she's taken to playing detective, and comes out to ask Mort if he's the one leaving her the flowers. Mort overexcitedly whips around at Princess Pitts with the smile that only a mother could love, and stricken by the sight, she quickly was promoted from princess to scream queen and faints. Mort aborts the mission and wraps himself up like Sonic the Hedgehog and rolls on out to his coffin. Princess Pitts is less deterred by this interaction than we thought, though, because she asks Chibi Robo to scare her straight, so she can handle the sight of seeing Mort. So we don on our ghost suit and spook her until she's prepared. Not gonna lie though, the ghost suit is pretty cute. Next time you arrive at Jenny's bedroom, Sunshine, her teddy bear, is having a withdrawal frenzy. Remember how I said there was addiction? They're attacking the castle, screaming for some nectar, and something needs to be done. Mort is concerned but paralyzed with fear, so the one and only Drake Redcrest appears, ready to jump into action. He flexes his hero skill by immediately getting decked in the face by Sunshine and is out cold. Mort realizes that he is the last hope for defusing the situation and tells you to shoot the button on his back, convinced that the outcome will fend off the rabid Sunshine. All that really happens is a spring toy pops out and Sunshine bursts into uncontrollable laughter, which sobers him up. Mort and Pitt finally get to have their moment, and long story short, they have kids. Sunshine's quick story revolves around him and his problem. His problem is nectar. 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 The solution to his problem is the problem itself. More nectar. But not just any nectar, a special nectar. So special that it requires 10 years to grow a flower that makes it. So, we'll get back to that later. Down the hall from Jenny's room, you'll find Frida's boyfriend, a shriveled up frog with bite marks. In that instance, you get chased down by a giant mega blox like dinosaur, and it tries to eat you, thinking that you're a frog as well. A complete tonal shift happens as their teeth pop out, and they are revealed to be a relatively harmless, excluding frogs, Granny Dinah. After giving you one single moolah for your troubles, Dinah admits to you that she actually is in love with that one plant fellow over there by the window, Funky Phil. You help him roll up the blinds and he puts on a show, playing some funky tunes. While this happens, he actually sweats out some funky sweat and a funky seed, which Chibi takes upon himself to plant, twice. Both time, farms up some kids for Funky Phil that he super didn't expect. But after some disapproving looks from Chiba, Dinah, and the kids, he at least decides to teach them how to be funky. One of the kids is Freaky Phil, and sadly, he is a bit of an outcast. After some encouragement though, he's ready to get funky. But unfortunately, we're all blindsided to hear that Funky Phil, he's dead. To mourn his loss, Dinah, with the help of Chibi and Mr. Sanderson, make a stage and put on a concert to pay tribute to Funky Phil. The next day, we find out that he actually just had his power button pressed and he is actually just turned off. Which makes me think, he's not just a toy. So should his sentiency really be governed by an on-off switch? Well, not to overthink it, but it is kind of funny because he's a toy. Glad to know that he had a happy ending after all, though. Oh yeah, now you can deliver the frog back to Frida. And he is not happy. He is yelling for help. Marriage. Am I right? Later on, you can do a rain dance, which is pretty cool. That's pretty much the end of the frog though. While outside, we find a few patches of grass that can be weeded out. Underneath lies, well, what is this? Some sort of crop circle. Pretty mysterious, but with the help of Chibi Radar, you can call down those darn aliens. They arrive, but appear to be too quiet to communicate with. A moment later, you receive an upgrade that is pretty much pointless outside of communicating with them. But anyway, now you can hear them. Long story short, you can find out that they are looking for their friend Giga Robo, who you remember is in the basement. On the way there, Drake Redcrest swoops in to deliver some misplaced justice, assuming the aliens to be a threat. Unfortunately for him, his iconic explosion after every greeting isn't going off, so he retreats. Once we get to Giga Robo, the aliens realize that he's offline. They get a massive depression fever and they go back to the saucer. When you return there in that moment, one of them comes out and looking for help and they collapse. You put them back into the spaceship and help everyone lay down. Then you play a game of Simon Says, which apparently triggers time travel of all things. Chibi Robo and Telly step inside the device and find themselves 10 years in the past, back when life was in Sepia Town. Remember when life was Sepia Town? Here you'll catch Mr. Sanderson and Giga Robo in a never-ending arm wrestle. Miss Sanderson is hanging out alongside them and Tao in a real need of a bone. At this moment, you notice an open suitcase which is locked in the present, giving Tao his well-deserved bone towards you with the code for the case's lock. Before you leave, remember how we said we needed to take a seed back 10 years for sunshine? Well, it's time to plant that seed. Once you come back to the present time, we'll find that flower in the same place. Apparently no one ever thought it was weird that a flower started growing out of nowhere. In over 10 years, they just left it there for us to pick that flower and suck that sweet, special nectar into our squirter and squirt it all over Sunshine's face. He is so hyped about it that he legit wets himself. You get one last Mr. Hyde moment out of him, and then he's pretty much cured somehow from there on in. Once you finish Sunshine, you can go back to the parents' bedroom and use the code in the hidden case. Once it opens, you find that it contains Giga Robo's missing leg. And without any hesitation, spiders jump out and swarm the house. Earlier in the game, you caught wind on phone news that spiders are on the loose. Randomly throughout the game, you'll have the Terminator teleport into any room you're in and just be like one shot. The flood of spiders that break through from the case force everyone to retreat to the living room and barricade themselves in, which is where you find out that Mr. Sanderson actually created the spiders. He continues that he designed them to be friends with Chibi Robo, but ended up being reprogrammed as hostile creatures. That is why he actually quit his job at Microwave Robotic Inc. He wasn't fired, and is even getting a job at Citrusoft, which is news to Miss Sanderson. This clears the air between the couple, but is back to getting to business for Chibi Robo. In order to defeat the bigger and badder spiders, we need to upgrade the Chibi Blaster. However, the blueprints to do so were thrown away and we need to go back into the past quickly to get the schematic. Once back from the past, we fend off the spiders as a distraction so Mr. Sanderson can retrieve some tools from upstairs. After a second wave calms, you're hearing a concerning noise back in the living room. When you get there, the family's cocoon hanging upside down to the ceiling thanks to the queen spider. Now, you have the one and only boss fight that is like right out of Katamari Damacy, as the queen has a magnetic field on her that's sucked up everything of metal, and you have to knock all of it off to win the fight. You also just happen to be hanging on the ceiling. Once this is all done, we celebrate. You almost think that the game is over when you realize that you need to get the leg back to Giga Robo and then get his battery charged, so he wakes up. Everyone here cheers for his rebirth, but all Giga Robo has on his mind is finding his alien friends, which he does. The aliens gift Giga and Chibi Robo an unlimited battery, and the game is almost over, with only a few untied ends to take care of. That night, you can meet up with the pirates outside and find that they feel the need to leave the house. Sergeant shows up to say his goodbyes to the crew, and both he and Plank burst into tears as the egg pirates remind Sergeant that he will always be loved, and Plank promises him that he will treat them as his own. They're the only characters that actually ever leave the house permanently, or at all. So here's a couple of other fun things that are worth mentioning. The Chibi house store, there's a space cruiser and a hot rod for sale. If you choose to purchase them, you can actually have a race with 3 eggs, with 3 other eggs wanted to be space cruisers and hot rod racers. The space cruiser situation is infuriatingly particular, and hot rod racer guy wants to play chicken. You can pretty much play this entire game and not even realize you're able to participate in these encounters. If you remember from earlier, Plankbeard had left you those treasure maps. The easiest one to find is where you found Giga Robo. It's a chest where it holds a Tamagotchi. You can go down a nostalgia trip and take care of it once you give this to Mr. Sanderson, which is a nice addition. Another chest is found above the swing and past the bird, who, quick note, if you shoot them, they rightfully scream animal abuse, and then drop a plop on you. I didn't try this before playthrough, but I read it was possible in a guide and was shocked. Props to the game designers for this interaction. Back on the branch, you'll find my guy, Mr. Eggplant, who's a wacky fellow that takes pride being an eggplant and even turns you into one, which is amazing. And I wish that I could have played the rest of the game as one, or at least had a suit. But you get offended as Chibi Robo can't properly respond and takes it back, then disappears. The last one is found in Jenny's room in her toy piano. Funnily enough, I thought I had to play a melody on it, which is nearly impossible. You only need to run around the keys frantically to find that there's the last treasure in it, Primo Pule. Primo Pule is actually a toy in real life made in Japan. Crazy to see this kind of crossover kind of thing happen. Like the Tamagotchi, you can give this to Mr. Sanderson. Strangely enough, he is an interactive toy. However, he wasn't granted life, so he's unusual in that he is just a toy in a house full of toys with sentiency. Stranger than that is Mr. Prongs. I don't know what, or who, or where he's from, but when you use the Chibi radar in the living room towards the end of the game, you can bump into this guy while playing the tune with the spoon. He loves the music, but if you don't supply what he demands, he will shrivel up and die. If you keep playing the spoon tune, he grows huge and then disappears. I don't know if he's a toy, he doesn't have an emotive head, and he's the only character in the game sporting partial nudity, but he sure leaves an impression.
Anyway, without going too much into the gameplay or the trivia, this is the grand story of Chibi Robo. Now, if you fancy streams, you can find my fiance and I at twitch.tv/KylerSane on Monday, Thursday, Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, or my band, The Muggrakers, at twitch.tv/TheMuggrakers at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications for upcoming videos. We'll see you next time.